Today I wanted to talk about the importance of interruptions and how sometimes we feel we're in a meeting and somebody goes off topic and we get frustrated because we feel like we're talking about something that we shouldn't be talking, but you don't feel like you have the responsibility, the ownership, the guts even to interrupt. So this is what we're going to talk about today on why it is important that you do actually interrupt and why there's nothing for you to lose. So the problem is that sometimes we think about interruption in a way of, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be interrupting and feeling awkward and derailing the conversation. And this is really what makes us hold back. But the point is that interruptions are an important tool that we want to leverage to keep meetings on track and respecting everyone's time. The key to productive, seamless interruption is actually in the how you do it. Right? There is a rude way to interrupt, but there's also a non-rude way. There's also really a smooth and diffuse approach to interruption. And by believing that interrupting is rude by default, we're actually believing something that is limiting us. So how do we diffuse the moment of interruption in a way that is not rude and awkward? So whenever you are facilitating a meeting, prime others to expect interruptions. This is really one of the key things. If you preempt that at the beginning of the meeting, this will give you an opening. This will give you an opportunity, a window of opportunity to shifting the conversation back to what matters. So you can set the scene at the beginning, right? We have only an hour, we only have 45 minutes, and we really want to cover those things. You're very clear on the agenda. And sometimes you can do it even in a provocative way if you are not the organizer of the meeting, or if you feel uncomfortable and maybe awkward, you could take the organizer of the meeting on a side and say, do you mind if I mention that at the beginning, or do you want to mention that at the beginning of the meeting, that we can expect interruptions so that we do it for the best interest of the company. So when done well, interruptions will foster actually goodwill among all your team members. And they'll understand that what you're trying to do is avoid distractions, avoid losing focus. So let's practice that a little bit. And so I want you to imagine a scenario in which you are actually facilitating a meeting and one colleague stays the conversation completely off topic in a way that is well intentioned and just not very productive. And sometimes it's really unconsciously done. He's not aware that he's jeopardizing the meeting. It's just that maybe he got carried away by some things that spiked in his head. Now, imagine that you might want to say to your colleague to interrupt them, right, and bring the meeting back to the focus. To accomplish this, what you can do is that you can actually rehearse that ahead of time and write down the sentences that you would like to use. Practice and preparation is so key. So we know that when you are in the moment, your emotions might get quite high and you might lose the words you want to use. So this is why preparation is so important. So there is 3 ways you can actually rehearse this ahead of time and think about it when you're then in the moment, when you want to interrupt your colleague. The first is you want to validate your colleague's point, right? So you can say something like, oh yeah, this is a really interesting point. So you don't want to be, you want to start with a positive basis. You want to make sure that you don't stop just focusing on yourself and on the topic and forgetting about the person. So you want to be, taking care and being empathetic about this other person and their feelings. So you're going to be saying something like, yes, amazing. But then you will also immediately say something like, well, let's try to keep focused on the subject so we can finish the meeting on time. And the reason why this is important, because you are actually appealing to the group's interest, right, of staying on topic and finishing the meeting on time. So you want to really make sure that it's not just your agenda, but it's like, it's great, but we have a lot to cover, and why don't we, in the interest of time, why don't we stay focused on this? And the other thing you can do, I really love to say, like, I can take note of this, and if we have time, we can go back to the at the end of the meeting, or we can organize a separate meeting to discuss it, or somehow a way to follow up on this idea that might be really important, but might not just be exactly that. And then exactly the right time and place to do that. And then the third thing is that you want to actually defer to an authority whose interests are served by staying focused. So, for example, if you're working on a proposal for the client, you can say, let's stay focused on this subject because our client is expecting us to deliver this proposal by the end of the week. So you actually then kind of shift the focus and attention of, this is why we need it, right? Why do we need to finish it on time? Oh yes, of course, we gotta get it there, or to our boss or the CEO or whatever it is, whatever entity that is external, whatever authority you are serving, the purpose of the meeting is serving. You want to refer back to them and bring it back to the focus of attention of everybody in the team. So what you can do, you can really practice these phrases out loud in front of the mirror before the meeting, and you're smiling and you're using friendly tone. You really look after your body language. You're not close and angry or worried, but you're really opening up and welcoming the conversation. But you also want to maintain some discipline in the interest of the project, the team, the time of everybody, and yeah, and the customer, the stakeholder. So the next time a meeting starts to get away and you're losing, the focus, try validating and the interruption approach for getting things back on track. And you might be surprised how much your colleagues appreciate actually your attempt to refocus the conversation and the discussion. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.